psychopathy is an interesting tangent to talk about to end this one segment that we're speaking of, because I think that Leroy Jones and Maggie Estep and a few others, in terms of their interest in the art, is borderline psychotic, because they have absolutely no talent in some of the endeavors that they do, yet they persist and persist, and that's basically all the thing that gets them published, as well as sucking cock and licking clit. But it has basically no relevance to their lives, and they don't really know themselves. I know that you've encountered many artists, especially in New York, and some of your time in Minnesota. What do you think it is that gets people to fall in this cliche of the suffering artist thing? It seems like artists, particularly, are angst-riddled people, and even I know even some good artists who are. But I don't understand why someone who has no ability in something are able to get into this. And do you agree with me when I say it's borderline psychotic, if not entirely psychotic?
I don't know if it's psychotic, but it's basically a mix-up of definitions. And this is one of the things that in these creativity shows I'm going to put out to these people. Uh, you'll hear a lot of these things. Studies have been shown that creative people, have, a 2.3 times as high rate of manic depression as average non-creative people or whatnot. Well, no, they don't. The misdefinition comes with the calling people creative who aren't creative. A lot of people who have depression think they're creative because they read things like Giorgio Vasari's Lives of the Artist that built up this idea of the suffering artist. And while it's true that people like a Sylvia Plath or a John Berryman or a Hart Crane or the Romantic poets, or you can go in other arts too, have done that. The vast majority haven't been manically depressed or anything. And so what happens is people know that artists are more sensitive to life. I'm despite what people might think. Even Jessica will say I'm probably the most sensitive person that she's known. I was just this morning on Facebook. I was depressed for about an hour because I saw this Audubon Society video of an eagle that came with this young kitten that it had killed and was feeding it to its chicks. And I'm like, oh God, not a kitten. Um, but but people see that creative people, and especially greatly creative people, are more in tune and are more sensitive. Hence, people who are more sensitive on the whole think that, well, that's a hallmark of creativity.
I think people misunderstand that definition too, because when you say sensitive, you're not just speaking in the emotional, blubbering sense either. You're talking about sense,
Yeah.
as in you're more in touch with things.
Right. I can notice things. If you read, if you've read a decent amount of my stuff, in some of this stuff I'm doing in my latest book, there are a little moments that, and aside, my characters notice these little things, and most people don't in real life. They will notice here or there. What I do is I condense it, so I might have a dozen characters, each that has a moment of notice in the course of whatever narrative I'm working in. But in real life, that's about all they would have. Whereas someone like me will notice all the things those people notice in that same time frame. So the mistake comes not in thinking that all creative people or the majority of creative people are depressed. The mistake comes in the absolute reverse, that people who are manically depressed or have depressive tendencies think that they're creative. They have these impulses. I think I've talked about it before. The Woody Allen film in Tears, they're Joeys. I have this desire to do something, but I don't have the talent. So people mistake this, and this is where you get that fallacy, because I've known lots of people that have come to poet readings have absolutely no talent with words. I get sent so many pieces of, and you've seen. I mean, you've been on the E-list what, close to a year now. So I mean, I've probably sent, you know 20, 25 times of submissions I get. I usually just send the most ridiculous stuff that it looks like a 7-year-old wrote it. All of this blubbering where people are, and in the sea where the bird circles down to the lonely shore, and all this kind of that's not creativity. That is not creativity. I think I said the last time. Jessica says it's like calling someone an athlete because they walk down their driveway to get their letters. That doesn't make you LeBron James.
I find it interesting when you talk to scientists about the idea of creativity, how they mix it up too. And, it's profoundly uncreative how they describe it too, because you will inquire about whether it's something in the brain, perhaps, that makes the brain fire at certain things. And their response are roughly generic and doesn't really get into the meat of the idea and can't see that the question is in many ways metaphorical. If there's something in the brain there that can activate, that makes the brain different when you look on an X-ray, not an X-ray. If you look at one of these charts of how Einstein's brain was different from average Joe and how Pablo Picasso's brain was different from another average Joe,
Yeah,
it
and
seems profoundly uncreative. Even how these discoverers go about describing how things work in a mechanistic way.
this is one of the things that I've said before, and when I get into these creativity shows, I'm going to call people on this, is that scientists are not creative. They will use little creative insights here and there, but their main role is discovery. A scientist doesn't create things. A scientist discovers things, and that is 180 degrees from creativity. In creativity, you use little moments of discovery to make things that wouldn't otherwise exist. This is why I said many times that a Beethoven or a Melville is far more important to human culture than an Einstein or a Newton, because Einstein and Newton are eminently replaceable. There were people in their day that were working on the same things. The only difference is we may have had their theories 10, 15, 20 years later. You would not have had Moby Dick. You would not have had all the great music that Beethoven created if they did not exist. Period. And nothing like it.